The following is brought to you by Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. TotalSeal.com. Hello and welcome to another edition of Hidden Horsepower presented by Total Seal Piston Rings. We have got a tremendous episode for you. You are going to love it. We're going to dive into the world of the HEMI and the Chevy and the Constant Aviation factory stock Showdown, but I can't do anything without my co-host, Mr. Keith Jones, the Director of Technical Sales at Total Seal Piston Rings. Keith, how are you?
I am doing great, Joe. As mentioned a little earlier, enjoying some, fall-like weather out here in Phoenix. It's a, little over 100 degrees, if you call that fall. So we're just enjoying the weather.
So nice and cool and wonderful out there in Arizona. All right, let's get right into it, Keith, because I feel like we have, in many ways, royalty in the engine building business. I reached out to David Barton, fresh off his U.S. Nationals win in Factory Showdown, fresh off his Maple Grove win, and he's like, I want my dad to come on too. We've got Ray Barton and David Barton together on the show. Just tell us a little bit about them before we bring them in.
Well, what do I need to say? These guys are legends. David, look at his accomplishments. Look at how many races he's won, what he's done, what he's achieved. You talk about him as a driver, but what some people do and don't know, guy's an EFI super tuner, and great thinkers. And then you've got Ray, Mr. HEMI. How many shootouts have they won? The accolades go on and on and on, and it is truly a father and son team. These guys, what they do, what they accomplish, how hard they work. These guys really, you can't believe the amount of time, the amount of hours they put in, and how they find every little bit.
The hidden horsepower.
Just an incredible pair.
They find the hidden horsepower. So without further ado, let's get right to it. From Ray Barton Racing Engines, Ray and David Barton, welcome to Hidden Horsepower, gentlemen. How are you both?
I'm fine.
Great, Joe. Thanks for inviting us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm losing my voice, but.
All right, David, you're going to have to carry the ball a little bit for your dad, but I got to ask him first, though. We'll wear him out at the beginning, Ray. Number one, the Ray Barton Racing Engines logo, the name. It's one of the most well-known, I believe, in drag racing because of your success at the Dodge HEMI Challenge 4 in a row a couple of years ago with Jimmy Daniels. You're synonymous with drag racing, but how did it start? Like, where did you get hooked? Give me an early memory that made you decide, man, I want to tear apart an engine and figure out why it works or how it works. What's your origin story?
I used to just like playing around with anything mechanical, I guess. And when I was probably 15, I lived up in Manitoba, Canada. I would hitchhike to the Bison dragways, and my father always had Mopars, so of course I ended up being a Mopar guy, and I loved the HEMIs, and never really liked 340s or 440s, but I always loved HEMIs, and that became my passion, I guess.
And you're synonymous with that. Those engines, they became the top fuel platform, but that Dodge HEMI Challenge, you were all over that right away. And I mentioned Jimmy, but many others have carried your engines to victory. What is it about the HEMI? Is it the architecture, just the fact that it was a great design?
I just thought it was a great looking engine to start out with, and they stayed together. All the guys with big block Chevrolets that I knew always broke rockers, and all the motors had a lot of problems, which the HEMI didn't. Well, it was built as a real race engine. They never put a HEMI in a dump truck or anything. Which, they did with Chevrolet motors and stuff. But
Keith, that's an excellent point right there, right? Ray is nailing it.
I know you got a chuckle out of me on that one, and that's absolutely the truth. Yeah, it's going down the street loading trash into the back, got your HEMI in the front. You say absolutely the 366, 427, well-known Chevy dump truck motors, but no HEMIs there.
Nope.
And it is a good-looking engine, by the way. It's big. It is big. And you became the specialist, though, so much so that carries through to today. You haven't really been – some engine builders I don't want to say get stuck, but get stuck in the era that they start, and you, Ray, have been able to advance beyond with these modern Hemis. You got your hands on them as well. That tells me that you've been curious to keep up with the technology and all. What do you think about the evolution of that engine that you're such a specialist on?
You mean the 426 Hemi?
Well, not the original, but even now I know Ray Barton Racing Engines has got some packages for the modern stuff.
Yeah, we were involved with that stuff. I kind of worked a little bit with some of the guys at Mopar back in 98 or 99. That was supposed to be a NASCAR truck motor. It never, ever was supposed to be a street engine. And I worked with a couple of those guys on that project. And then when they submitted that engine to NASCAR, the minute they heard Hemi, it got canned. So that's how that thing actually that was for Jeep Eagle, and that's how that engine actually came about. But it definitely was not ever supposed to be a street engine. I don't think too many people really know that, but.
And that's why they subscribe to the podcast, Ray, because you guys like you drop nuggets like that. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're gonna try to save your voice a little bit. I know what that's like, believe me. So let's bring on David now. David, your dad, I guess he's the one who brought you into the deal, and you followed in your father's footsteps. You've certainly made your own world, though, with the factory Showdown engines. You were building engines before that, but you took it in a different direction away from the Hemi. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had some big shoes to fill there. So growing up, it was always like, man, how am I going to compete with what he's doing? But to be honest, once all the modern cars came out, we started running the 2010 Dodge Drag Pack back in 2010, and that kind of opened up a lot of doors for me because I was, I grew up working on carburetors, but I was way more interested in fuel injection stuff because you just do so much more with it, and I always loved data as a kid. And so it, like I said, it opened up the doors in so many ways, so I can dive in there and just find so much more hidden horsepower. It's we kind of got into it late. In 08 the Mustangs came out with the Cobra Jets, and then in 09 the Dodges came out with their thing, and then we're waiting on our chassis to be built, and in 2010 I think it was, we went to Indy and just smashed everyone's records there. I think in A stock out of Mac we ran a 967. We actually had people like ready to kill us, like literally in the pits, because we ran so damn fast, and I honestly didn't even know we were even going to go that fast. I was just doing what I knew how to do, and I was trying to win the race. So years later, we transitioned into the Chevy stuff, and here we are today. I mean, we're just trying to move forward with the business and keep up with the times.
As of recording, for everybody out there listening, and hopefully you click subscribe and rate and review and all the podcast stuff, David has come off 2 victories in Factory Showdown. He has to show up and stage at the final race to lock up the championship. And racers, we're all very superstitious, so we're not going to talk about that anymore. Okay, David, we will talk about the U.S. Nationals because that is tremendous. But first, I want Keith Jones, our technical expert, to jump in here for the Bartons. Keith, I know you guys work together, but the creative process, finding ring seal, finding hidden horsepower, Keith, jump in with a question.
Well, working with Ray and David both, I mean, again, the tolerances that they want to hold has forced us to do things on the rings. I mean, these guys, building, the plethora of different engines they do. I mean, if they're running 3/10, 4/10 clearance, that might be loose. I mean, Ray and David push us. They really want the stuff spot on. They want it as good as we can get it. And I think that goes into part of their, a big part of their engine building philosophy. They don't want to leave any stones unturned. Last time I was there, I saw stuff that they were doing, with old school Hemis. I apologize to the listeners for, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. I kind of get lost in all that, but, good old 426s. And I'm watching stuff they're doing to these things, and my God, they're turning these things 10,000 RPM with conventional valve train. And, it's amazing what they've done. And at the same time, employing all the modern tools. a lot of guys talk engine dyno. Well, these guys engine dyno, they spintron, they've got hub dynos. I mean, the quest for knowledge is never ending. So, they push us to do things ring wise, that I'll say F1 does. It's like, hey, well, what can we do here? What's the thing we can do? Can we do this? Can we do that to the ring? Can we add this to the ring? What's the next feature? What's the next benefit we can add? What about a better coating? So they're, and that's just the one thing on rings. We work on cylinder finishes, gapless technology, conventional technology, just every feature we can offer. And one of the great things is they're always willing to try something. We come up, like you say, we're brainstorming ideas. What about this? What about that? Yeah, let's try it. Send me a set. So it's great working with them because they're always willing to try, to push that boundary, to push that envelope. My question would be, and this, I'll save one of them towards the end of it, but, going into the Copos, interesting that you guys, went from the HEMI into the Copo. Did you see an advantage with that engine platform for you to make you switch from one to the other, or was it just kind of an interest, something that interested you? What made you guys go down the path of the Copo?
Well, one of our top customers, Gary Wilkowitz, as you know, he's been running the HEMI for many years, and one day we're at Englishtown and they're running one of the factory showdowns, and he really fell in love with the Chevrolet Copo, and he's like, hey, I want to get one. I actually tried to talk him out of the supercharged deal. It's like, well, why don't you get like a 427 or something, be a little more your speed? He's like, no, I want you to drive it. He's like, I'll get it. You drive it and do what you got to do and do your thing. So that's how we kind of made the jump there. And at the time, Mopar didn't have any supercharged stuff. We're begging them for the 2015 supercharged engines, and they didn't have them, So we, in 2015, we ran the NA motor and dominated with that thing, but then it was an easy jump because Gary was nice enough to get us involved and help us campaign the deal, and so that's how that all got started. And then so getting involved with a supercharged engine really intrigued me. We built them for guys over the years, but we never really raced them hands on all the time like we are now. So but over time I realized how similar they are to everything else we built. They're all engines are, all pretty much the same thing. They all like little minor tweaks here and there, like different ring packages, as you know. But I think we're very successful right out the gate with them because all the same converter, same gearing type of thing, and just how to tune them. Everything about them was very similar. So it wasn't like a drastic change. It's not like I went to go race a F1 car or something.
And Ray, what was your side of the deal as someone who had been involved with one platform for a while? You had done other things, but been known for one platform. When that idea came to your desk, were you all in initially, or was there any apprehensiveness to supercharged factory cars? I don't know.
No, I was into it for no other reason that Chevrolet actually had parts you could buy. You couldn't get anything from Mopar. Everything was just permanent back order, and I don't know, it was a new challenge. I know somebody from Chevrolet told David after the fact that they were happy that we were going to give it a shot, and they hoped within a year we'd figure out how to make them run. And I think we got the car in November, and the very first race we went to was Gainesville, and we're number one qualifier and won the race. That was pretty funny.
Ahead of schedule.
And then I guess all the guys that were racing them had to get their ass in gear and figure out how to make some more power.
I was going to say, so naturally, all the Mopar people just hated my guts. Coming out of the gate, and we had the time of our lives. Though. It was so cool because in 2016, when they officially were handing out the big Wally to win a national event for the factory showdown, I felt like it was 1970 racing pro stock. Just the buzz in the air, there was nothing like it. It was so cool. And then to walk away winning we won the first 3 out of 4 races that year, and it was just the best time, man. And recently we won 3 more national events, so it feels good to be on top for a little bit again.
And I would imagine it would feel like, because you were gone for a while, right? And you said in your Winner Circle interview after the final round at the U.S. Nationals, sponsored by Dodge Power Brokers U.S. Nationals, you ran a guy who is an arch rival in many ways, Stanfield. You're both running Chevys, and he's been running so well, and you caught him and passed them and won the U.S. Nationals. It was a huge moment for you as a driver, because he's a great driver, but also as an engine builder. And to me, that emotion came through in your interview. Talk a little bit about having to rally back, right? You were in the lead, performance-wise, got surpassed a little bit, and then rallied back and have now taken back the performance lead, which is amazing.
I don't even know if we took back a lead. It's just we just did better on race day. I mean, we kind of go back and forth, just when I think I pick up a lot, he's right there again, So it's nice having that competition, and we try to keep it friendly, we're not stabbing each other in the pits or nothing. But it's, I mean, I've lost so many times to Aaron just by a couple thousandths. I mean, it's just, or like against Skillman in Norwalk, I lost by 1 thou. It's like, oh my God, 1 thousandth? Are you kidding me? So for weeks you're thinking about all the little things you could have done to pick up 2 thou to beat the guy. It's but that's what it's all about. That's why my dad raised me to just keep digging and never give up and work as hard as you can and keep trying to find all the little bit of power you can. And that's why we rely on people like Keith to keep us up to date with any new technology and try new and better, different ways of doing stuff. So,
Ray, that work ethic David's talking about, we hear a lot of it. You can't, there's no real lazy drag racers, certainly not engine builders. You have to love what you do, and you got to do it, all the time, all the way. Where did you get that to pass it along? Like you mentioned that you lived in Canada, and it sounds like, we talked to Warren Johnson once, and he said growing up in Minnesota, you had to make everything yourself. You had to do everything yourself, and that made you be a hard worker no matter what. What about you? Where did that work ethic originate?
I guess I was just born with it, because my dad was not into cars and thought it was pretty stupid to be doing what I was doing for a long time. But I started out as a hunting, fishing guide and couldn't make a lot of money at it, and moved to Toronto, and I had a HEMI car, and there was a little speed shop there, Nob Hill Speed and Custom, and I hung out there, and I noticed he had a bay in the back. I said, hey, can I rent that bay off you, and I'll install headers and carburetors and stuff like that. And that's how I started out. I never worked in an engine shop in my whole life. I never worked in a machine shop. Just read a lot of books and figured out how to do stuff, and figured out which guys were telling me bullshit, and met a few real good guys that told me what I really needed to know, and just keep working.
Wow. Those guys who told you, that earned your trust, that told you what you needed to know, were they like racers around the area who were winning races, or were they just good guys? Like, how does that work out?
The one guy that definitely I looked up to was Ted Spehar, who, he used to own the missile cars and stuff, and I used to drive down to his shop in Detroit once a month and buy parts off him, and he would always steer me in the right direction. There was other guys at Mopar who would purposely send you down the wrong road, but Ted was the guy I always looked up to, and I could figure stuff out myself. I knew when people were telling you bullshit, I tried so many things, because I used to build road race engines, Alfa Romeos, older Ferraris, all kinds of stuff like that. I used to build outboard engines that people raced, and we were really good in that, and Grand Prix hydros, and I've done a lot of Bonneville stuff. Just any kind of engine. You learn from everything that you work on. You learn something. So,
Keith, jump in here with a question.
Well, yeah, Ray. I mean, so that's, you and I have talked about that. But what about your early racing days? I mean, bracket race, stock, super stock. besides all the work, what were you racing?
I never really
So
raced. I had a HEMI lightweight car, but I never had any money to go anywhere other than the local track. I was always buying machinery and buying more machinery, and me and my wife ate a lot of spaghetti and beans and stuff like that for a lot of years to buy all that equipment. I mean, I bought my CK10 when I was like 22 years old, but I realized at the time, after reading a lot of books, that all recommended if the machine shop you go to doesn't have a CK10, find another machine shop. So I was about 22 years old, and Sonnen financed me, and I got a Sonnen CK10. I never owned a block in my life when that thing showed up, but we figured it out, and I still have that machine to this day.
Wow.
Almost every engine I've ever built in my whole life was honed in that machine up until recently when we got our Rottler machine. So, yeah, and it still runs good.
It's funny, when I was there, you and I talked about that, because that machine looks as good today, maybe not as good, but I'd say 9/10 of the way there as the day you bought it. If I remember, you got the line hone attachment. Remember, we were talking about different equipment in the shop, and it's like, what machine in your shop that you bought, what year did you buy that? What, 72?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's still worth every bit today as it was when you bought it brand new. And you think about how many blocks that thing's honed over all those years, and she's still going strong. Says a lot.
Oh, yeah. I know we've done well over 2,000 engines, and back then I was doing engines for Sears for their delivery trucks. I was doing stuff for Avis Rent-A-Car and Tilden, like whatever it took to make those payments so I could keep the machines. I wasn't building race Hemis. I was building anything that walked in the door. So the machine's been good.
Amazing. Yep. Amazing. So let me ask you about Keith, guys. Ray and David. Keith is obviously, talkative, gregarious, knowledgeable character. The change from what it was to what it is involving ring seal, narrower, he mentioned coatings, he mentioned all that, but that over the last 15 years, would you say, is like really when that became a thing, and they're getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and just all these elements that are making for good ring seal nowadays. Were you on board initially? Did Keith like, hey guys, I got a crazy idea? And how much of the power we see these days comes from that area in the engine?
Well, quite a bit of it when you're trying to run stuff up to 10,000 RPM and still seal the engine. And the biggest thing in my whole life was always reduce friction. It's just free horsepower. Where can I reduce friction? And there's a ton of it in the rings, that's for sure, if the block's honed right. And learned a lot from Keith. I can't say really anybody else taught me too much about. I was just a Speed Pro guy for probably 30 years. But,
Keith?
Well, no, and I appreciate that. Again, it's a great part of working with the Bartons, and again, always trying to make it better and working on, honing ideas. And like Ray mentioned, has the new Rottler, so, we talk about cylinder finish, but we're also talking cylinder bore geometry, getting into the machines that can really get the geometry better. And that's, again, the fun of working with guys like this is they're not stuck in the sand. Like Ray said, Speed Pro guy for 30 years, and they had great stuff. I mean, they really did. And I'll wave our flag, but we're the guys here trying to push the technology, and, they're receptive to it. And some guys out there are, and some guys aren't. And fortunately they are. And the question's always, well, what more can we do? We got that, and this is great, and we took it to this notch. What more can we do? And that's what drives us. That's what drives me. What more can we do?
A lot of times you have to circle back to things too, because you could try a certain ring and it might not work, but it's because your piston's a piece of junk or something too. So you got to, piss away 6 or 8 months or even a year redesigning other things, and then come back to it to reap the benefits. So it's just an ongoing cycle.
Yeah. Oh, and what David just said is 100% true. Let's say we do a really cool ring, but like David just said, maybe the piston wasn't any good, or the cylinder was out of round, or something weird was going on with the oil that day. and it invalidates the testing. And as it stated, you gotta circle back because things are constantly evolving, and that's the truth with everything. I mean, what happens, what you did with a certain camshaft or certain EFI tune-up, and then all of a sudden something else changes. You've got to constantly be checking and testing and retesting.
One thing that's really seems to be changing all the time is all the different oils all the time. I won't say any brands.
A moving target.
Yeah, it's crazy. Every time they get sold to somebody else, everything changes, except the label.
And that's where Lake Speed, our other co-host, comes into play because he is world-renowned tribologist and oil development guy, and he's probably laughing out there right now because my head spins when he starts talking oil because of exactly that, Ray, that it is just, a rapid fire.
Yeah, he used to come to the shop here all the time. Really, really helpful guy, very smart guy.
Yeah, amazing.
And he is, but like you just said, Ray, and it's literally every time something new comes in, another company comes in, a different supplier comes in, again, Lake likes to call it that, that soup. And next thing you know, your soup goes completely bad. And, it's because of one piece of change in the chemistry and you're back 3 steps trying to find your way forward again.
Yeah, and it can cause a whole bunch of other problems that you don't even realize at first. Then you start going around in circles and circles. It's all because of damn oil or something. It's crazy. That's part of the game, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
David, I would love for you to share a story, if you got one, about what you said, like going down a road and you think, this is a good idea, it's going to work, it's not working, it didn't work, except maybe it did in the future. We've learned on the show that so much is learned from failure. It's one of the things that everybody always says, like, don't be afraid to fail, because when you fail, you learn something, and then whatever you learn is what gets you to become successful the next time around. Have you found that to be true, first of all?
Oh, so many times over and over again. Like I said earlier, the rain deal in Pistons, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but we're using certain kind of pistons out there for so many years, and then all of a sudden 2020 came, and everyone knows how much of a, how it turned the whole world upside down there. Next thing you know, the quality just seemed like it went to hell, or maybe we're just making a lot more power and trying to get more out of them, but for whatever reason, our pistons were just collapsing. And they weren't melting into a blob or nothing, but with the tight tolerances that we run on everything, started pinching the rings, and the wrist pins are starting to grab and starting to booger up everything. And some pistons would last 5 races, and some would last 1 run before it would be a problem. So we chased our tails for a couple of years there, just going around and around with that stuff. And so we hooked up with some other people and engineers and stuff that know way more about this stuff than we do, and helped us design it. And we just try to again just keep improving all the parts. So once we got that solved, then we move on to the next story. Just keep bouncing around: cylinder heads, camshaft, pistons, rings, everything. It just keeps going in cycles. So once you make something like 80% of what you think it could be, you move on to the next thing and then get the most out of that and just keep going around. I'm sure any drag racer does the same, not just us.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. And Ray, obviously, it's with the HEMI, whether we're talking about the Showdown engine or we're talking about the HEMIs, they were not designed to do what they do, though. And that's what's amazing when we get that Dodge HEMI Challenge, just had it out there in Indy. Like, how on earth do these things even do that? Low 8-second ETs from an architecture that I'm sure didn't think it would ever do that.
Well, I know myself, for many years I used to read all the Mopar manuals and everything they used to print, and everybody used to say that stuff's written in stone. Well, finally one day I threw all that stuff in the dumpster and that's when I started to go fast.
Huh.
Otherwise, you're just stuck doing what everybody else is doing. And I come to realize a lot of the stuff that was written, time just left that in the dust. You know, it was written in stone at one time, but I used to joke, like Mr. Hoover used to come down to my shop, and he used to look at things, and I'd show him stuff. He'd go, "Ray, you're making my head hurt." Well, I never got those memos. Otherwise, I'd still be doing it like you're telling me I should be doing it, and I'd be 5 times slower.
Wow.
Just gotta march on, and you can't believe everything that you read. I mean, you just can't.
Keith, jump in with a question here.
Yeah, well, a question and a comment, and I agree with what Ray says. There's a lot of great books out there, but they're not all necessarily written in stone. There's things that I deal with every day that comes from certain books and certain manuals, and people trying to achieve, certain things. And I'll quote Warren. One of the things that I deal with every day is, connecting rod lengths, and people, putting such a long rod in an engine that it's completely compromised the ring pack and the ring location on the piston, to the point, I'll have people, they've got the second ring, they've got the wrist pin up into the second ring groove. They put it up so far because they need this theoretical ratio. And, in the words of Warren Johnson is, you build the piston and rod from the top down, not the bottom up. You figure out where the rings need to be on the piston. Once you've got that, then you figure out how much rod goes in it, not the other way around. And, again, quoting Warren, and from my position, words to live by. That's the gospel, because we deal with so many ring seal issues that are not a ring problem, they're a rod length problem. So that's, you say a question comment with Ray is, throwing that stuff out, looking at it and logicking it out. It certainly seems to have done you well. I don't know if that's a question or more of a statement.
Yeah, I think that motor is pretty well maxed out. I mean, we ran 821, back in 2010. Did it quite a few times, and Charlie did it a few times back then too, but not much has happened, I'd say, in the last 10 years. I don't really work on those engines anymore. I keep Jim Daniels and Gary and Mike Booker and a couple of guys running, but I haven't built a new motor in years. I physically can't lift up the heads anymore. I just can't build an engine by myself. So I still have a lot of interest, but I have a lot of interest in this Copo stuff. Mechanically, I can't do any of the stuff that David can do. If it wasn't for David, we'd have a carburetor on it or something. But that's just the next generation coming along, So.
Yeah, what about that, Ray? Let me ask you. As I would imagine, the proud dad, right? Like your kid could have gone off and done something else. Could have been a stockbroker or whatever.
Yep.
Who knows? But he followed you and is carrying the torch in a very strong way. And he goes out and wins the U.S. Nationals in the car, and kind of takes on. He's got a whole crop of guys tuning their cars, thinking about Anthony Troyer, just like so many cars that are under your banner. And that's your son who followed you. I bet that's got to be a great feeling.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know some of the shootouts, out of 16 cars, 8 of them were out of our shop. They don't all have our name on them, but no, it's pretty exciting. Everybody in the shop is pumped up about it, and I'm super proud about it. I mean, I know nothing about electronics. I just got rid of my cell phone, my flip phone, about a month ago. So.
Oh, really? What'd you get? What'd you get to replace it?
I don't know. You'd have to ask David.
David, what did he get?
Samsung or something?
It was like the cheapest one they had. It was, I don't know, it was like a couple $100, and that was it. I didn't know you could even buy one so cheap.
Yeah, next
but
thing he'll be on the internet real soon, finding all the great stuff that's on there.
No, it just has to go ring, and I say hello. That's it.
No, but I definitely want to mention too. I mean, obviously it's not just my dad and I doing all this stuff. We have a good crew of guys here at the shop. There's like 8 of us in the back here working on stuff every day, and it's a big team effort. You can't do it without from smart people and people showing up for work every day. So, I got to thank those guys a lot for keeping the ball rolling every day while we're out there having fun, on race day.
Any of the guys that race with you are also shop guys? Like I think of Todd Hoven. There's a guy I know that races your stuff and all, but like any of your shop guys also race with you?
Nope.
Wow.
They're involved in their own deals with their friends or family or whatever, but not with NHRA stuff, no.
That's interesting. I find that to be interesting.
It's kind of a good policy to have. In years past, I had employees that were at the races too much and talking about stuff they shouldn't be talking about. It's just not a good deal.
Wow. That you say it, Ray, the second you say it, talking about stuff that they shouldn't be talking about. This is what we're doing at the shop. Oh, yeah, we found some power in this area. Yeah, guys, go fly kites or something else. Don't come to the drag strip.
Like for many years, I never hired a Mopar guy. A guy would come to me, I'd like to work for you. I'm a Mopar. I'd never hire a Mopar guy. He used to steal everything.
Wow.
Hire Chevrolet guys, all they'd steal was oil filters and spark plugs.
All right, guys, we're coming down the stretch here. Go ahead, Ray. You were going to say something else.
No, I was going to say it sounds kind of rough, but that's how I was back then.
Well, Ray, I've learned that things have softened recently. We've heard the story, Keith and I and Lake and I on this show. Back in the day, everybody was very secretive and very cutthroat. You told a story minutes ago about guys that would deliberately tell you the wrong thing to do to send you into the wilderness. Nowadays, because the sport is smaller or because it's so expensive or because people are kinder, it seems people are more willing to be helpful to each other, sharing secrets or pointing them down the right road or giving them, you don't want to see your competitor blow their stuff up because now they won't be able to race and then you won't have anyone to race it. Do you think that's true?
I like to see them blow their stuff up.
You do?
You there?
Yeah, I heard you.
You know what I'm saying.
I do.
I don't want to see them hit the wall or anything, but if they lock the crank up or something, I'm fine with that.
Old school.
Sure they're the same with me. They like to see me blow all my shit up, which we don't, but that's just how it is. That's why we go out there to punish people and win races. We don't go there to have barbecues and make friends with everybody and have little parties. We go there to kick ass, sell motors, and that's what sells motors.
Yeah, that's just made a promo right there, Ray. Good job with that. All right, Lake wants me to ask a new question at the tail end of the show, and it's this. I'm going to ask you both independently, or you can collab on the answer, which is this. Okay, the name of the podcast is Hidden Horsepower. David already used it once. Where do you think the next frontier is in these engines? Ray, go first. When you think about the system that is the engine, where is the next wave of hidden horsepower going to come from?
Well, that's up to NHRA, I guess, because I'm sure they're going to keep changing the rules, especially with this new AFX stuff. I can't believe the motor's going to be exactly like it is right now, but the only place we can find more power is camshafts and possibly ring seal, a little bit in the heads, but you make close to 1,500 horse and you still got to run a 640 lift camshaft because it's a stalker. It's kind of hard to find more power. And there's always more in the car. David's always finding more in transmissions, converters, stuff like that.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's not directly related to the engine, but there's so much more in converters and gearing and stuff like that. And we're trying to reinvent the torque converter with working alongside with Pro Torque and Bonifani and those guys, and we're trying to reinvent that. And I think once we get in the zone there, we're going to make some big changes there. But it's just a guess and a goal we're trying to achieve. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure, but I think there's a lot left on the table there.
Interesting.
Within our rule package too. I mean, there's so many things you can do, but we're so limited with what we're allowed to do. Converter wise, we're not allowed lockups and things like that. You're not allowed dump valves, which I think some guys might have anyway, but just your traditional converter, I think there's a lot there in harnessing the power. It's one thing to make the power, but to get it down to the ground properly, efficiently every single run, and keeping the whole car in check, that's a battle every single run. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. What about Factory X, David? What's your plan? And I don't know the rules yet either, but my general understanding is it's not going to be stock eliminator. It's Factory X. And so that camshaft thing, in my mind, might go away. I don't know. What do you know?
I don't know a whole lot about it. We're kind of kept in the dark on that whole thing, which I was kind of disappointed that we never got a single phone call about any of it, but we're very excited about it. We got two guys that are going all in on it, and one car is going to be built before the other, so we're all going to kind of team up and learn together on the first car and just learn everything about it. I mean, we're not really tube chassis type people. We've always been stock, super stock type of racers. So on one hand, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't keep it more stock, super stock, and keep the cars a little more original. I'm not super excited about it being like basically a pro stock car. I'm not saying that's not cool, but from where I came from, it would have been much more cooler to take what we had and just lighten them up and put a 5-speed in it. I still don't understand why they didn't go that direction, other than them trying to attract more pro stock guys into it. The guys that are doing it week after week. That's just my guess on it. I don't know why they did what they did, but anyway, yeah, we're super excited to get into it. I mean, it's definitely a new adventure to get into, and like I said, we got two guys that are going all in on it, and we'll see where it goes. I hope they don't blow the whole engine combo out of the water and just completely change everything and end up back where pro stock is today. I hope they still keep the rule package nice and tight and stay on top of it.
Excellent. Well, we're all very excited. I hope we recapture that energy you were describing earlier in 2017 Factory Showdown. Keith, final question for David and Ray Barton.
Well, you pretty much stole it from me, because it was going to be about the factory experimental cars, because I think they're pretty exciting. I understand David's point, but I've always, I'm kind of old school, and I've always been that, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and having a car that, looks like the car you can buy on the showroom floor, but yet it'll run, in the sixes, I think is pretty exciting. So I'm looking forward to them. But that was actually going to be my question. So that one got past me. So just want to thank everybody for being here and taking the time of their day to do this show, because we really enjoy it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, guys, a tremendous job. I really appreciate both of you coming on and sharing some stories. And David and Ray, to you both, I know, like, by the time this is going to air right away, right? So you got to go to Dallas, the Stampede of Speed. To anybody out there who's near the Texas Motorplex, that's where the final race of the year is going to be for this category that we're talking about, Constant Aviation Factory Stock Showdown in the NHRA. David has got to figure out how to get to the race, and he's got to figure out how to get to the starting line and stage up. We know racing is complex, and there's all kinds of stuff. We wish you the best of luck with all of that, David. But assuming you're able to do that, how meaningful is this season going to be when you look back at what you've accomplished?
Boy, it means a lot, because we've had our teeth kicked in enough, in the past how many years since I won last in 2017, and it means a lot that all of our customers and our guys in the shop here, everyone worked so hard to just pull it all together, and we all had the same goal in mind, and we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and to finally be number one again, it's just it's unbelievable. I mean, it feels really good, and mission accomplished. It's we're almost there. We're 99.9% there. So going to try not to mess that up.
Yeah. Well,
exactly. I mean, and a lot of people, I hear stuff on the internet or see things people write, a lot of negative stuff. But we've had 5 different customers, well, 5 including myself, 5 different drivers out of our shop this year in the finals, and we've had a car in every single final this year. And I don't know if everyone realizes that, but man, that's a lot of work to get that many fast cars out there. We bring 8 to every single event. It takes a whole community of people to accomplish that. So.
No, I got to tell you, I don't even know that. I'm thinking, you won the U.S. Nationals this year. Jesse won last year or a couple years ago, last year. You guys roll deep in the pits, and swinging an engine on one of those things is not easy. It is a lot of work. And I think about Lenny Loddig, who made the final round against your other customer, Anthony Troyer, at the Gator Nationals this year. And right down through, you have had a car in the final at every race all year long. That is an amazing, amazing stat. You should be very proud.
I got to thank my wife, too, because she's going to beat me up if I don't thank her, because she does so much for us all year long. I mean, I can't even explain how much she's done, before, during, and after every single event, and she works here at the shop, too, so. All
right, final question. I always ask this. And Ray or David, you guys can answer or you cannot answer. But I like to imagine that there's a young 20-year-old out there who's discovering that he likes mechanical things and wants to get into the engine building trade. They're searching for podcasts, and they've actually come up to us at PRI. So we always ask about advice for the next generation. Like, what would you tell that kid? Like, what should he do to get ahead? What's the best way to navigate this world out there for someone that's interested to eventually, follow in your footsteps maybe? Let's start out with David and then go to Ray.
Boy, that's a tough question there. What do you tell someone? I feel like there's nothing like doing a hands-on experience. If they want to get involved, they gotta, try to join someone's team like ours or Stanfield or any other race team out there, to look up at the right people to get the right knowledge, to stay up to date with what's going on. I don't think there's any school out there that can, they could show you the basics, but just to think how to make the right decisions at the right time with what you're working on. You got to look up at the best of the best out there if you really want to be somebody.
Ray, what about you?
Well, same thing. I mean, you're not going to go anywhere in life if you're just working at a place that's building taxi motors. You're just going to die there. You got to try to get involved somewhere, or even if you go work for John Force or somebody, but you got to get in the door somewhere. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think every single guy that works for me, basically, when they walked in the door, they didn't really know much of anything. And they've learned everything that they know working here, which is good. You can't learn it out of school, that's for sure. That's all the input I got. But any young kid that walks in and looks like the lights are on upstairs, at least we'll give them a shot.
The lights are on. I know what you mean.
The best advice my dad ever gave me was, if you want to be a loser, hang out with losers. If you want to be a millionaire, go hang out with millionaires. And there's a lot to be said to that. It's there's so much truth behind that.
There is so much truth behind that. And we'll end at that point. David and Ray Barton, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. David, what you do on the racetrack, it's amazing to watch. I know the guys that you battle every week. They are very impressive people, and what you and your whole team have done this year, I think everybody is in unison. They are impressed by it as well. Ray, what you guys have done with the HEMIs and over the years, and just have had great success in stock and super stock, a huge commitment to drag racing. Thank you for what you've done. And I know you guys don't do a lot of these things. I know this isn't your deal. I think you did a great job, and I really appreciate you coming on Hidden Horsepower.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks for calling.
David, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
And there they go, David and Ray Barton from Ray Barton Racing Engines. Keith, how great was that?
Oh, that was awesome. And I'll thank you, Joe, because you got David on, and then David got his dad on. I've been trying to get those guys on for the longest time. And, you know how it is. It's trying to get, everything, all the locks lined up at the same time. And let me thank you for your efforts. And it was everything I expected. Words of wisdom and words to live by.
Yes.
You are the company you keep.
Wow. How about that? You want to be a loser, hang out with losers. You want to be a millionaire, hang out with millionaires. It's hard. It's if the millionaires will let you hang out with them. Right.
Yeah. If they will.
If they will, which is part of it.
Like Ray said, you got to have the attitude. You got the aptitude. You want to do this. You got to go in and work. And he mentioned going to work at Forces. Hey, I'll say this. In India, I got to go to John's shop, and Sam gave us the tour, showed us the place. Man, what a shop. What an outstanding place. I'd be proud to work at a place like that. Awesome facility, just like Ray's. Ray's got an old Pontiac dealership in Pennsylvania. What a gorgeous place, and what a great team of people. Like you said, it takes a community to do what they do.
Amazing, just amazing. And again, dancing around the championship because he's just got to show up at the race, and to not make it to show up to the Stampede of Speed at the Texas Motorplex in the Fall Nationals would mean like some, I don't know. So obviously we'll wait to crown him the champ when he earns the championship. But what he has done to this point this season has been amazing, to pass the knowledge from the dad working on HEMIs to the son working on supercharged small blocks, and to go out and be champions regardless. Amazing stuff. And Keith, some good questions there. Ring seal, right? Part of it. And it always seems to be the key. And how about that? Mentioning the Rottler also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've got that machine in the shop working well. They, initially a little learning curve like any new piece of equipment, but it's rocking and rolling. And, playing with ring stuff. I mean, they were testing ring stuff last week. I can tell you that. That's all I can tell you. But they were testing stuff just last week. So always trying to push this thing forward. Again, the relentlessness, David talked about converters. I asked Ray, earlier this year, where do you think it is? What's the next thing you guys are working on? It is converters. I mean, they're wearing those hub dynos out. He said, man, we can make all the power on the dyno we can, but if it doesn't make it to the rear wheels the way we think it's making it to the rear wheels, it's not getting down the racetrack. And again, it's just one more piece in the puzzle they're working on, and they're relentless about it.
Yes. All right. So if anybody out there wants to get a hold of you, wants to figure out how to unlock their hidden horsepower, what should they do?
Just get a hold of me, KeithJ at TotalSeal.com. Got the website, TotalSeal.com. Call us on the toll-free 800-874-2753. Any way you can figure out to get a hold of us, we will get back to you. I will get back to you. We'll answer any question we can for you.
And make them your first call, not your last. Keith Jones, the Director of Technical Sales at Total Seal Piston Rings. My name's Joe Castello. I'm one of the NHRA announcers, but I also do a podcast called WFO Radio, where we interview a whole lot of drag racers. You guys might like that too, if you like this. But stick around. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast, because more episodes are coming. Plus, we'll be at PRI. All kinds of great stuff coming. As the racing season winds down, a lot of things start winding up, and that is true with Hidden Horsepower. All right, guys, that's going to do it. We'll see you next time on Hidden Horsepower, presented by Total Seal.